Hi, I'm Cassie Reynolds. I'm 36, and last month I inherited my grandmother Vivian's cramped apartment filled with what my family called hideous antique furniture. For that, they labeled me stubborn and impractical. But the real heartbreak wasn't their eye rolls or snide comments. It was realizing they'd dismissed Grandma Vivian the same way they'd always dismissed me. That realization changed everything. Now they're calling, texting, wondering if they can help with the furniture they once called trash. But before I get to that part, where are you watching from today? Your own home? On a break? Drop a comment. You're about to hear the part they never wanted me to say out loud. The keys to Grandma's apartment felt heavy in my hand as I sat at my parents' dining table. The gleaming glass surface reflected the recessed lighting. Everything in their house painfully modern and perfectly coordinated. I'd been dreading this dinner all week, but with Madison at a friend's sleepover, I had no excuse to skip the monthly Reynolds family gathering. So, I said during a pause in my brother Blake's story about his latest real estate deal, I have some news. Grandma Vivian's lawyer called me yesterday. My mother Jennifer set down her wine glass. Oh, what did he want? Apparently, Grandma left me her apartment. And everything in it. The silence lasted exactly 4 seconds before Blake snorted. His wife Tiffany looked up from her phone long enough to exchange a glance with him. Seriously? Blake laughed, swirling his whiskey. That dusty old place with all the weird furniture? What are you going to do with that? I'm not sure yet, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I thought I'd go through everything first, see what's worth keeping. Worth keeping? My father Robert chuckled. Cassie, honey, that stuff is from another century. I don't think any of it's worth the truck rental to haul it away. Your father's right? Mom added, her voice taking on that gentle tone she used when she thought I was being naive. That apartment needs a complete gutting. The furniture is. Well, it's not even vintage. It's just old. Tiffany finally put her phone down. There's this great junk removal service we used when we bought the Miller property. They'll take everything, no questions asked. I can send you their number. That's not necessary, I said, pushing my salmon around the plate. Some of those pieces might have sentimental value. Blake laughed again, louder. Sentimental value? When's the last time you even visited Grandma? She was holding on to that stuff because she was from a generation that didn't throw things away. It's all junk, sis. I visited her last month, actually, I said quietly. We had tea in those worthless cups you're talking about. Well, that's nice, my mother said with a tight smile. But sentiment won't pay the property taxes or maintenance fees on that building. The practical thing would be to sell it quickly. My father nodded. The market in that area is heating up. If you list it now, you could get enough to finally get yourself a proper condo instead of that rental. I stared at my plate, feeling the familiar weight of their disapproval settle on my shoulders. They'd had the same reaction when I chose art history over business school, when I took a job at a gallery instead of my father's company, when I married Dean despite their concerns about his unstable career as a photographer. I'll think about it, I said finally, knowing they weren't really listening anyway. Don't overthink it, Blake said, already back to scrolling through his phone. That's always been your problem, Cass. Later, as I drove home to my empty apartment, their dismissals echoed in my head. But something else was there too, a memory of Grandma Vivian's hand on mine the last time I saw her. You see beauty where others see junk, Cassie, she'd said. Never lose that gift. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Maybe, just maybe, Grandma had seen something in me that the rest of them missed, and maybe there was more to her junk than met the eye. Have you ever had your family dismiss something important to you? Tell me in the comments, because what happened next is something they never expected. The lock stuck a little as I turned the key to Grandma Vivian's apartment. Madison stood behind, me, bundled in her favorite blue hoodie, impatient to see inside. Is it haunted? she asked, only half joking. Everyone always said great-grandma was weird. Not weird, I corrected as the door finally swung open. Eccentric. The musty scent of old books and furniture polish greeted us. Dust particles danced, in the shafts of afternoon light streaming through heavy curtains. The space wasn't large, just a one-bedroom in an old brownstone, but it was packed with what looked like a jumble of mismatched furniture. "Whoa," Madison whispered, stepping inside. "It's like a museum threw up in here." She wasn't wrong. Every surface seemed occupied. A curved wooden chair with faded upholstery sat next to a glass-topped table, with strange metal legs. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with art books and small figurines. A low cabinet with sliding doors occupied another wall, while a desk with dozens of tiny drawers commanded the corner by the window. "This stuff looks super old," Madison said, running her fingers over a lamp with a glass shade and swirling patterns, "but kind of cool in a retro way." I smiled, remembering how Grandma used to let me open all those little desk drawers when I visited as a child. Each one held something interesting: foreign coins, unusual buttons, tiny sketches on yellowed paper. "Grandma loved beautiful things," I said, carefully sitting on an oddly shaped chair that was more comfortable than it looked. "When I was little, she taught me to look at the lines of furniture, the way light catches glass. She said most people just see objects, but artists see stories." "Your parents hated coming here, didn't they?" Madison asked, surprisingly perceptive. I nodded. "Mom always said Grandma lived in the past with her dusty old things. They could never understand why she didn't want stainless steel appliances and matching furniture sets from catalog stores. We spent the afternoon opening drawers and cabinets, finding treasures tucked everywhere. Vintage scarves in silk so fine they slipped through your fingers like water. Old photographs of places I didn't recognize. Books in languages I couldn't read. Under a stack of art magazines, I found a leather-bound journal with Grandma's neat handwriting filling its pages. "Listen to this," I said to Madison. "Acquired the Wegener chair today. Hans insists it's an original, certainly pre-1960. Paid more than I intended, but couldn't pass it up." "What's a Wegener chair?" Madison asked, peering over my shoulder. "I'm not sure," I admitted. "But look, there are entries like this throughout." My phone buzzed. Blake. I ignored it. Madison had discovered something else. A strange desk with curved legs and a top that seemed to contain hidden compartments. "Mom, look at this! If you press here, it opens up," she demonstrated, revealing a small drawer I'd never have noticed. My phone buzzed again. Finally, I answered. "Hey, sis." Blake's voice was suspiciously cheerful. "Just checking in. Have you been to the apartment yet?" "We're here now, actually." "Great. Listen, I talked to my buddy at Johnson Realty. He could list the place ASAP. They've got a junk removal service that can clear everything out by Monday." The casual way he said junk made something twist inside me. "I'm not ready to sell yet, Blake. I want to go through Grandma's things properly." His sigh was loud through the phone. "Don't be sentimental about that old furniture, Cassie. It's taking up valuable time you could be using to get the place on the market." After hanging up, I noticed something odd about the chair nearest to me. Turning it over carefully, I spotted a label partially hidden beneath the fabric. Hans J. Wegener, 1949, the name from Grandma's journal. Meanwhile, Madison had found a photo album. "Mom, look at these," she called. The black and white photographs showed a much younger Vivian standing proudly among well-dressed people examining furniture pieces, many of which were sitting right here in this room. In one photo, a man in a suit was pointing excitedly to the very chair I'd just examined. "These people don't look like they're looking at junk," Madison observed. I ran my fingers over Grandma's journal again, thinking of her words. "You see beauty where others see junk." We're not calling anyone to clear this place out, I decided. First, we need to find out exactly what Grandma collected all these years, and why she kept it secret from the family. Madison grinned, already opening another hidden compartment in the strange desk. Detective mode activated. For the next 2 weeks, my evenings followed a new routine. After work at the real estate office, I'd pick up Madison, grab takeout, and head straight to Grandma's apartment. While Madison did homework at the strange desk she'd claimed as her study spot, I dove into research. Armed with Vivian's journal and my laptop, I started looking up the names and terms she'd mentioned. Hans Wegner wasn't just some random furniture maker. He was a famous Danish designer whose chairs sold for thousands at auction. The curved wooden seat I'd casually sat on that first day, it might be a Papa Bear chair worth more than my car. "Mom, look at this," I said one evening, turning my laptop to show Madison a museum website. "See this chair? It looks exactly like the one in the corner, and it says it's a Pierre Jeanneret design from the 1950s. Madison glanced between the screen and the actual chair. "Whoa, same weird X-shaped legs. Is it worth anything? If it's authentic? Possibly tens of thousands." Each discovery led to more questions. Why had Vivian kept these potentially valuable pieces secret? Where had she found them? How had she afforded them on a librarian's salary? The answers were scattered throughout her journal. Apparently, she'd started collecting in the 1960s when these mid-century pieces weren't yet considered valuable. She had an eye for quality and design when others just saw odd-looking furniture. Each purchase was carefully documented with provenance notes and original invoices stored in those desk compartments. I was photographing a sleek glass coffee table when a loud knock startled me. Without waiting for an answer, Blake walked in, followed by our parents. "Surprise!" Mom announced, looking around with barely concealed distaste. "We thought we'd help you get started with the clean-out." Dad was already examining the walls. "Building solid, but this place needs complete modernization. Knock down this wall, open up the kitchen." "I'm not renovating," I said, closing Vivian's journal quickly. "I'm still going through everything." Blake was opening and closing cabinet doors. 2 weeks and you haven't cleared anything out? Come on, Cass." "Actually, I've been researching the furniture." "Researching?" Mom repeated, like I'd said I was communicating with aliens. "Some of these pieces might be valuable," I explained. "This chair, for instance, could be a rare Hans Wegner." "Oh, Cassie," Dad interrupted. "Don't start with that art history nonsense again. No one cares about old chair designers." "Actually, collectors do," I insisted. "I've been looking things up." "Look," Blake cut in. "My friend Derek is interested in this building. His company's buying up properties on this block for redevelopment. He'd give you a fair price, cash deal, no hassle." The pieces suddenly clicked together. "Is that why you're pushing me to sell so quickly? Your friend wants the building?" Blake at least had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. "It's a good opportunity for everyone. You get cash, I get a finder's fee, and you don't have to deal with this stuff." "I'm not selling yet," I said firmly. "These pieces need proper appraisal." Mom sighed dramatically. "Don't be difficult, Cassie. You've always had this problem, getting fixated on impractical things." The next day, I contacted Archer's Antiques, sending photos of some pieces. Their response was immediate. They wanted to see the collection in person. When Howard Archer arrived, his reaction confirmed my suspicions. The professional appraiser moved through the apartment like someone discovering buried treasure, his eyes widening at each piece. "This is extraordinary," he kept saying. "A Nakashima coffee table. Is that an original Saarinen? And this?" He stopped at the desk Madison loved. "A rare Geoponti secretary desk. I haven't seen one in this condition in years." "So they're actually valuable?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Valuable?" Howard laughed softly. "Ms. Reynolds, you're sitting on one of the finest private collections of mid-century design I've seen outside a museum. If these authenticate, and based on what you've shown me of your grandmother's documentation, I believe they will. We're talking about significant value. The validation was exhilarating, but it also made me nervous. I suddenly felt protective of Vivian's collection, reluctant to share too much information. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Sunday dinner this week. Non-negotiable. We need to discuss your situation. I showed it to Madison, who rolled her eyes. Your situation being that you might actually know what you're talking about for once? Exactly, I replied, a strange new confidence building inside me. Sunday dinner was coming, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to smile and nod and go along with their plans for me. Sunday arrived with the crisp certainty of a closing door. I drove to my parents' suburban home with Madison beside me, both of us quieter than usual. You okay, Mom? Madison asked as we pulled into the brick-paved driveway. Just thinking, I said, eyeing the spotless exterior of my parents' modernist home, all clean lines and strategic lighting. So different from Vivian's warm, cluttered space. The dinner began like they always did. My mother's perfectly prepared roast chicken, my father's carefully selected wine, and Blake dominating the CEO. Conversation about his latest development project. 32 luxury units where that old eyesore used to be, he was saying. Property values in the whole neighborhood shot up overnight. Blake has such vision, Mom said proudly. He can see potential where others just see problems. Speaking of vision, Dad said, setting down his wine glass with purpose, we need to discuss your grandmother's apartment, Cassie. And there it was, the real reason for tonight's family dinner. It's been nearly 3 weeks, Mom said. Blake tells us you're still cataloging things? The way she said cataloging, like it was some bizarre hobby, made my cheeks warm. I've been having the collection authenticated, I corrected. Collection? Dad scoffed. It's old furniture, Cassie. Actually, I said carefully, it's a curated collection of mid-century design pieces, many by notable designers. Tiffany looked up from her phone. Like who? Hans Wegner, Eames, Gio Ponti, Nakashima, I listed, satisfaction flowing through me as their expressions shifted. According to the appraiser I consulted, some pieces could be quite valuable. Blake laughed, though it sounded forced. Cassie, come on! If Grandma had valuable antiques, don't you think someone would have known? The appraiser thinks the collection could be worth significant money, I said, deliberately vague. Dad leaned forward. How significant? I'm waiting for formal authentication, but preliminary estimates suggest several pieces are museum quality. A silence fell over the table. I could almost see the calculations happening behind their eyes. Well, Mom said finally, her tone shifting. We should discuss how to handle this as a family. After all, it's family heritage. It's my inheritance, I corrected. Grandma left it specifically to me. Blake cleared his throat. About that, I took the liberty of speaking with our family attorney. He says since Grandma's will wasn't updated after Grandpa died, there could be grounds to contest. You did what? I interrupted, my voice sharper than I'd intended. We're just looking out for your interests, Dad said soothingly. These things can be complicated. Like I've been making hasty decisions for the past 3 weeks by carefully researching everything? The sarcasm in my voice surprised even me. There's no need to get emotional, Mom said. Actually, there is, I replied. You've all decided I can't possibly know what I'm doing. Again. Just like you decided my degree was worthless. Just like you decided my marriage was doomed. That's not fair. Dad started. Isn't it? I asked. Blake, when were you going to tell me you'd already discussed selling the building with your developer friend? Before or after you consulted the family lawyer about contesting Grandma's will? Blake had the grace to look uncomfortable. Derek's company has been acquiring properties in that block. It's a good opportunity. For whom? I challenged. For you to get a commission? For you to get out from under a property you're not equipped to manage, he shot back. There it is, I said quietly. Not equipped, not practical, not capable. That's what you all think of me, isn't it? You should know, I continued, finding my voice growing stronger, that Blake has already scheduled a junk removal service for Tuesday. Without my knowledge or permission. All eyes turned to Blake, who shifted uncomfortably. I was trying to help. By getting rid of what might be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of furniture before I could have it properly appraised. Madison, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. Mom knows what she's doing. You all just can't stand that she might succeed at something you thought was stupid. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I'm done having my decisions questioned, done being the family disappointment. Grandma saw something in me that none of you ever bothered to look for. Where are you going? Mom asked as I grabbed my purse. We haven't finished discussing this. Yes, we have, I said simply. Madison, are you ready? Cassie, don't be dramatic, Blake called as we headed for the door. We're just trying to help. I turned back one last time. No, you're trying to manage me, to control me, to decide what's best for me, just like you've always done. But this time, I'm making my own decisions. In the car, my hands shook on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from adrenaline. That was awesome, Madison said quietly. Scary, but awesome. I took a deep breath. Tomorrow, we're calling that Appraiser back, and a security company. I want to know exactly what Grandma left me, and I want to make sure no one can touch it until I decide what happens next. As we drove away, I felt lighter somehow, as if I'd set down a weight I'd been carrying for decades. Grandma Vivian had given me more than furniture. She'd given me the courage to finally find my voice. Part 5. The Revelation and Power Shift. 2 days later, Ethan Miller from Prestige Antiques walked slowly around Grandma's apartment, his expression growing more animated with each piece he examined. Unlike Howard Archer's initial visit, this was a formal appraisal, clipboard in hand, specialized equipment at the ready. This Wegener Papa Bear chair, he said, running his hand along the curved armrest, is an original from 1951. Look at the patina on the wood, the quality of the upholstery work. Even with the fading in this condition, it's worth upwards of $25,000. Nodded, trying to appear calm while my heart raced. Madison sat at the Ponte desk, taking notes on everything Ethan identified. And this coffee table, he continued, kneeling to examine the wood grain of a seemingly simple table, is a George Nakashima original. See his signature on the underside? The free-edge design is his hallmark. Current market value would be approximately $45,000 to $60,000. The numbers kept climbing as Ethan moved from piece to piece. The Danish teak sideboard, the Eames lounge chair, the Saarinen dining set, the French Art Deco bar cabinet. Ms. Reynolds, Ethan said finally, I need to be clear about something. What your grandmother assembled here isn't just a random collection of valuable pieces. It's a curated representation of 20th century design movements, from Bauhaus influences to Scandinavian modernism to American studio furniture. It's museum quality. What does that mean in terms of value? I asked, my voice barely steady. Ethan adjusted his glasses. Based on today's assessment, the collection as a whole is worth between $8 and $10 million, possibly more to the right buyers or museums. The room seemed to spin around me. Madison gasped. That can't be right, I whispered. I assure you it is, Ethan replied. Your grandmother had an exceptional eye. And look at this. He pulled out a folder of papers Madison had discovered in the desk that morning. These are original certificates of authenticity, purchase receipts, provenance documentation. She kept meticulous records. As I flipped through the folder, another discovery emerged. Letters between Vivian and museum curators, correspondence with famous designers, exhibition catalogs with her name listed as a lender. She wasn't just collecting, I realized aloud. She was respected in the design world. Absolutely, Ethan confirmed. According to these records, she loaned pieces to the Museum of Modern Art in the 70s. She corresponded with collectors and designers worldwide. But she never told the family, Madison said. Why keep it secret? Before I could answer, the apartment door swung open. Blake walked in, followed by my parents. The building manager let us in, Mom explained, then stopped short at the sight of Ethan and his equipment. Dad's eyes narrowed. What's going on here? Formal appraisal, I said simply. This is Ethan Miller from Prestige Antiques. Blake looked around impatiently. Great, so you got your confirmation. Now can we discuss next steps as a family? I just received those next steps, I replied, handing him Ethan's preliminary valuation report. The color drained from Blake's face as he read. 8-10 million? That's impossible. It's accurate, Ethan assured him. Your mother had an extraordinary collection. Mother? Blake laughed nervously. You mean our grandmother? Of course, Ethan corrected himself. My apologies. My parents were frozen in place, staring at the report Blake had handed them. This changes everything, Dad finally said. We'll need to set up a family trust to manage these assets properly. I'll call our financial advisor. No, I interrupted calmly. There won't be a family trust. Cassie, Mom said, her voice honey-sweet, we've always been so proud of your artistic eye. Remember how close you and Vivian were? She would have wanted us to preserve this legacy together. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Because last week her furniture was just old and I needed to call a junk removal service. We didn't know, Blake protested. This is family heritage now. It's my inheritance, I corrected. Left specifically to me by a grandmother who kept her collection secret from the family because you never respected her passion. Now, let's be reasonable, Dad began. I am being reasonable, I said. I've contacted a lawyer to protect my interests. I've documented the collection. And I'm going to honor Grandma's wishes by making thoughtful decisions about what happens to each piece. You can't just shut us out, Blake argued. We're talking about millions, which is exactly why I need you all to leave now, I said, my voice firm but calm. I have a lot to consider, and I need space to do it. This isn't over, Blake warned as I guided them toward the door. You're right, I agreed. It's just beginning, but on my terms, not yours. As the door closed behind them, Madison looked at me with wide eyes. Mom, we're millionaires. I shook my head, running my fingers along the smooth wood of Vivian's prized Nakashima table. No, sweetheart. We're custodians of Grandma's legacy. That's worth even more. Over the next 3 months, Grandma's apartment became a revolving door of specialists, curators, and auction house representatives. Each piece was professionally photographed, documented, and carefully cleaned. The apartment itself transformed, from a dusty time capsule to a showcase of mid-century design brilliance. I absorbed knowledge like a sponge, learning the difference between Danish modern and American studio craft, the significance of certain makers' marks, the evolution of materials and forms across decades. Terms that had once seemed pretentious jargon now rolled off my tongue with genuine understanding. Cantilever chairs, biomorphic design, space-age aesthetics, burl veneer. With each expert who walked through the door, my confidence grew. I wasn't just Cassie Reynolds, divorced administrative assistant with an impractical degree. I was Vivian's granddaughter, the informed custodian of an important collection. My opinions were sought, my decisions respected. The Metropolitan Museum offered to purchase 3 key pieces for their permanent collection. The Museum of Modern Art wanted to borrow the Ponte desk for a special exhibition. A wealthy tech CEO offered an obscene amount for the Nakashima table, which I declined after learning Vivian had once turned down a similar offer, writing in her journal that some pieces deserve to be lived with, not just owned. The first, proceeds from selective sales, went into a trust for Madison's education. The next went toward purchasing Grandma's apartment from the building's owner, ensuring her collection would stay in its proper home. I began taking courses in art appraisal and museum studies, rediscovering the passion I'd abandoned after years of family dismissal. My parents called weekly now, their tone noticeably different, interested, almost deferential. Blake sent expensive gifts with notes about family healing. I responded with polite but firm boundaries, accepting small steps toward reconciliation while making it clear I wouldn't be managed or manipulated. Madison joked that I walked taller now, and she was right. There was a newfound certainty in my steps, a clarity in my decisions. When the real estate office where I worked offered me a promotion, I declined. Instead, I accepted a part-time position with a gallery specializing in 20th century design, leveraging both my art history background and newly acquired expertise. Grandma Vivian didn't just leave you furniture, Madison observed one evening as we sat in our now valuable chairs, drinking tea from Russell Wright's ceramics. She left you yourself. Looking around at the beautifully arranged apartment, our apartment now, I couldn't help but agree. The greatest transformation wasn't in the space around me, but in the woman I had finally become. 1 year later, I stood in the center of a gleaming gallery space, watching as patrons admired selected pieces from Vivian's collection. The exhibition, hidden in plain sight, the Vivian Reynolds collection, marked my debut as a special consultant to the Modern Design Museum. Madison, now 16 and considering art schools herself, proudly handed out programs detailing each piece's history and significance. I spotted my mother standing alone before the Wegener Papa Bear chair, studying the information card more intently than I'd ever seen her study anything related to art. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" I said, joining her. "It is," she admitted, then hesitated. "Cassie, I've been wanting to tell you. I was wrong. About the furniture, about Vivian, about you." Her eyes met mine directly. "I never really saw any of you clearly." "Why not?" I asked, the question I'd wondered for decades. "I think I was afraid," she said softly. "Afraid of anything that couldn't be measured in practical terms. Your grandmother lived differently, valued differently. So do you." We stood in companionable silence before she added, "I'm proud of what you've created here." Those words, so long wished for, felt like the final piece clicking into place. That evening, I announced the Vivian Reynolds Scholarship for Design History, funded by proceeds from the exhibition catalog. It would support students with vision and passion, but perhaps not practical family support. A fitting tribute to a woman who saw beauty where others saw only junk. As I looked around the gallery, at the pieces once dismissed as worthless, now celebrated and valued, I understood that Vivian's true gift wasn't the $10 million collection. It was the confidence to trust my own eye, to value what spoke to me regardless of others' opinions. Have you ever discovered the true value of something others overlooked? Share your story below. And if you found meaning in my journey, subscribe for more stories about finding your worth when others fail to see it. Because sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for the right person to truly see them.